Know what you know now and start all over again. Do things different, maybe not. If you had the chance to change the plot, would you? Or would you leave things the way they are? What would you do? All the blue skies, all the rain, all the pleasures and every pain. One more hello, another goodbye. But like meteors in the sky. Whoa, yeah, meteors. Whoa, yeah, meteors. You've seen the way that things can sometimes go as you're waiting for a familiar face to show. Standing in the line tonight, how to be to make it right. Sometimes it's never clear. So all that you can do is just be here. All the blue skies, all the rain, all the pleasures and every pain. One more hello, another goodbye. We're like meteors in the sky. Whoa, yeah, meteors. Whoa, yeah, meteors. You bounce from wall to wall in a restless mode. You look for things to change on the same old road. You can't stay in one place for long. You don't know why. You're like a meteor in the sky. Sometimes you run, sometimes you're standing still. You ride each wave and try to get your fill. You walk around and knock on doors, pace them out 1,000,000 floors, or so it seems, till you find what it is you're looking for in these dreams. All the blue skies, all the rain, all the pleasures and every pain. One more hello, another goodbye. We're like meteors in the sky. Meteors in the sky. Meteors in the sky. Whoa, yeah, meteors. Yeah, 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 meteors. All the blue skies, all the rain, yeah, we're meteors. Flashing by in the sky. Meteors in the sky, meteors.
Hi everyone, this is Plastic EP coming in from Melbourne, Australia, and let me tell you, it's an honour and a pleasure to do an interview now with Jesse BARISH coming in from Los Angeles, California, I take it. And how are you today, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, and I just want to say I want to thank Bob Evans and Donna from Me Song Global Rock for setting up the interview. What a fantastic songwriter you are. I've just listened to Hearts and Count on Me. How great is it writing those songs?
They were just songs, and they later became hits for Marty and the Starship. But I write all the time, so I never know if a song's going to be a success or not. That's the problem with this business, this crazy business, the music business, whatever's left of it.
Now, listen, I've got to go back to the beginnings. Tell me a little bit about how you got discovered and what year that was. A famous producer discovered you, didn't he?
I was living in Los Angeles in 1970, and I met Denny Cordell, who was Leon Russell's partner in Shelter Records. I met him on the A&M parking lot, and I told him, I said, I got a few songs I think Joe Cocker could do. So he gave me Chris Stanton's phone number, who was Joe's piano player. And the next thing I know, I'm in front of Joe Cocker and Chris Stanton singing them a bunch of songs. Joe was not in a very receptive mood. This was right after the Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour. So the last thing he wanted was another long-haired hippie coming into the action, Anyway, that meeting didn't go that well. But the next thing I knew was Denny Cordell wanted to sign me as an artist on Shelter Records. I wasn't even really looking for a deal. I was 25 years old, and I was on the streets of Hollywood looking for whatever action I could, conjure up. So I got a deal with Shelter Records, and I made my first album called Jesse, Wolf, and Wings. Wolf was the other guitar player, which Denny thought was an important part of my sound. And we added Wings as the bass and drums. And unfortunately, the album was being promoted by Capitol Records, which was also promoting McCartney's new record, which was called Wings. So we didn't want to change our name. We just added an H to Wings, made it Wings. And of course, no one got the joke, but they always say, well, who's Wings? We recorded the album up at Leon's house at Sky Hill in the Valley. And that was quite an experience. Denny was supposed to produce the record, but every time he had set aside a lot of time, either he got sick or I got sick. So he was never really in the studio producing it. And we did it kind of by ourselves, which was a big mistake because we were a bunch of crazy hippies stoned all the time. And it was not my finest moment, put it that way. Or actually, right before I got signed to Shelter Records, I was in a little band called Trees. We were like 4 guys out in Malibu. And one of the guys knew John Phillips, from the Mamas and Papas.
Yep.
And John Phillips was about to go on the road to promote his first solo record, Wolf King of L.A. So we went to his house in Bel Air, which is this fantastic mansion with peacocks and running around and And anyway, we thought he could maybe produce us. This is before the Shelter thing. And he said, no, I'm not interested in producing you, but maybe you guys could be my backup band on the road. So we said, hey, why not? So we went, we had a bunch of gigs on the East Coast. And our first gig was the Main Point outside of Philadelphia. And at that point, we were like 2 guitars, bass, drums. I played flute. That was my main thing then. I was a flute player. I hadn't really locked into the songwriting thing as much as I would later on. And a bass player and a keyboard player that played the cello, a guy named JB, John Blanton. So we did our first gig at the Main Point. And at the end of the gig, John said, it's too much band for me, too loud. I can't hear myself sing. So he fired the guitar players and the drummer and finished the tour with just me playing flute, the piano player playing cello, and the bass player. So it ended up being a little kind of chamber group, which is really cool. And he was a wonderful guy. I love John. We had an amazing, played the Bitter End, Cellar Door in Washington, the Big Sur Folk Festival, the Whiskey, Troubadour, the whole thing. And it was a great time. And I'll always fondly remember those days.
Did he have a hidden recording studio in his mansion?
Yeah, he had a recording studio, one of the first at home recording studios. The little record, it was was wonderful. We actually did a soundtrack for this film, Brewster McCloud, which is like a cult movie now. So we did a recording, and then during this time, the whole shelter thing started happening, you know. This was a historic mansion. I don't remember who. It was some famous movie star in the 30s lived there. It was either Jeanette MacDonald or some famous actress lived there. And it was quite a stunning piece of property. And John had built this studio in the attic. I don't remember that much about it, but it was it was a little 4-track studio, reel to reel. I don't know if it was 2-inch tape. I don't really remember. I wasn't paying that much attention to the technical end of it, you know. But it was quite an experience, and I loved working with John. And every night, John loved this song of mine called "Wheel of Fortune." So every night he would actually let me. He said, "Jesse's play." He let me play the song, and the audience didn't know who I was, but it was fantastic. He was such a generous guy.
Isn't it fantastic that, like, John opens doors for you, and not only that, he loves you as an artist and a person? I mean, how amazing is that?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then we were in New York playing the bitter end, and every night John told this joke about Segovia playing this. I'm not going to tell the joke because I just not. But it was about John Segovia playing this concert, and one by one the strings break, and he's playing the concert on one string, and then that string broke. Anyway, he does that joke every night and gets huge laughs. And then we're in the bitter end in New York, and the place is filled with, you know, Clive Davis and the Mamas and Papas and Andy Warhol and Bianca Jagger before she met Mick. It was, you know, all the glittering superstars. And he looks at me and says, "Jesse, tell him the one about Segovia." I tell the joke, the punchline, dead silence. And that was the last time I told the joke at John Phillips' concert.
Is everything alright? I just called to say how lost I feel without you. Miles away, I really can't believe I'm here now. I still care about you. Hearts can break, never meant together. Love can fade away. Hearts can cry when love won't stay forever. Hearts can be that way. Is everything the same? Do you ever think of me and how we loved one another? Change your mind? Will you want me back again? Or have you found yourself a new lover? Hearts can break, never meant together. Love can fade away. Hearts can cry when love won't stay forever. Hearts can be that way. Is everything okay? I just thought I'd write a song to tell the world, hey world, I miss you. 'Cause each and every day I think of all the words I never said, and all the chances that I had to. that break may never mend together. Love can fade away. Hearts can cry when love won't stay forever. Hearts can be that way. Hearts can be that way. Hearts can be. Is everything alright? Is everything alright?
Now, I've got to ask you, Jesse, the big influence of the 60s, I'm just saying, to me, the song Somebody to Love by Jefferson Aeroplane, sung by Grace Slick, to me, it's a total classic. Does that blow your mind, that song?
That summer of 1967, the summer of love, the soundtrack for my life at that point was Surrealistic Pillow, that second Airplane album. This is before I knew Marty, not knowing that in a few years, Marty and I would become like the best friends. And like I said, then years later, I was introduced to Marty in Mill Valley in Northern California. Now I'm talking to you from Venice Beach. That's where I live now. I don't know if you knew that.
So I just want to ask you now, from John Phillips, what was sort of your next steps? What happened there?
Well, that was the next step was the Shelter thing. During the time I was playing with John was when I was negotiating this deal with Denny Cordell. And it's funny. Denny was like a English royalty, and he wanted to be like a funky Okie with Leon Russell and all those people. And John Phillips, he wanted to be like English royalty. So it was just a funny thing, like. And John had an English girlfriend, Genevieve Wade, and this is after his marriage to Michelle had broken up. So it was quite a funny time. But during that time, during the John Phillips era, was when I was negotiating the Jesse Wolf and Wings. I was the only one signed to Shelter as a solo artist, but I kind of made it a band because it would seem like the cool thing to do. But we made a record, and it wasn't great. And I never got to do a second one for Shelter. But I stayed friends with Denny over the years. We remained friends. I just wasn't a money making at that point. He didn't see. It would have taken me a bunch of time to develop myself more as a writer. The band Jesse Wolf and Wings, we moved to the Bay Area from Hollywood. We were living in Hollywood, in the hills in Nichols Canyon. And when the record came out, we had more opportunity to play clubs in the Bay Area. So we moved the whole band to Marin County, which was like across the Golden Gate Bridge. And this is predating me meeting Marty. And we played a bunch of gigs in the Bay Area. We were the house band at the Keystone Berkeley, and the record wasn't really selling. It wasn't really being promoted. The machine wasn't really behind it. And eventually the band kind of splintered and broke up. Everyone went back to LA except me. I stayed there, and I ended up in Mill Valley, the same town Marty was living in. And at that point, Marty was like an idol of mine. He was a hero. He was the guy that jumped off the stage at Woodstock and fought the Hells Angels.
The Rolling Stones.
The Stones, yeah. This is the dark side of the hippie dream. It was like the Hells Angels were like the security. They were beating people up with pool cues. Marty saw it and jumped off the stage. And, who does that? Anyway, so when I met Marty, there was a mutual friend said, you should meet this guy, Marty. He knew Marty. So he took me to Marty's house, maybe 1973 or 4. And that was the beginning of our amazing connection. Marty had this great little house in Mill Valley. I was living there. I was married at the time, had a young son. who was a few years old, and I would go to Marty's house and we'd hang out. I'd say, "Hey, Marty, check this song out. Check this song out," and he got me a deal with RCA and produced my first record, and walked me right into to RCA and said, "Hey, sign this guy." They did, and they signed me. And during this time, I had written "Count on Me," and it was one of the demos that got me the deal. But during the time we were recording the album at Wally Hyder's in San Francisco, the Starship heard "Count on Me," and they wanted to do the song.
Precious love, I give to you. Blue as the sky, deep in the eyes of a love so true. Beautiful face, you make me feel light on the stairs, lost in the air of a love so real. You can count on me.
So they did "Count on Me," and then it became a big hit. And I had a band, and we were, you know, I was a happening guy. I had I had some of the best players in the Bay Area. I had Marty Balin in my corner, you know, producing me. And then I got a second album, which was called Mercury Shoes, a little more rock and roll. The first album was a little more kind of mellow love songs. You know, it wasn't rock and roll. And then the second one, we were playing around, so we played these places. People wanted to dance, so we started doing rock and roll, you know, and which is what I love, really, you know. I'm a rock and roll guy at heart, even though I love jazz and I grew up with jazz. I still rock and roll is more my speed, you know. And so that's what we did the second album, and somehow it didn't fly. And we picked the wrong singles, and the East Coast, the West Coast. Anyway, it all fell apart. I didn't get a third out. I thought with a third time at bat, I might have hit it out of the park.
If you've got any links where they can look you up on the website, or if you've got links to your music.
I have a website, Jesse BARISH Music. I have about 40 songs on SoundCloud.
Yep.
And that's what I do. I still write every day. I work on songs every day. I sing old songs. I sing new songs.
Jesse, I just want to thank you. It's been a fantastic interview. Going in, dwelling on your life and your fantastic career, and I just take my hat off to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.